Chapter 1. Skyla's earliest memory of Thomas was linked with the smell of beer and the taste of blood. She was waitressing at a Mexican restaurant that semester, the one over on Brewer Street, with the red-tiled roof and the neon sombrero in the window. Enchiladas and fajitas were a novelty in small-town Wisconsin, where the traditional cuisine leaned toward grilled bratwurst, Friday fish fries, and coleslaw. The restaurant did a brisk trade, even if some of the locals did pronounce the J in fajita and said pollo as if it were a NASA mission. Skyla worked 5 shifts a week, 5 more than she wanted to. Every day she intended to quit, but by closing time she'd changed her mind. For weeks she carried a handwritten note in the pocket of her rust-colored, flouncy skirt. It said, "I, Skyla Medley, give Las Tejas restaurant 2 weeks' notice of my termination of employment." The note stayed the same except for the date, which she crossed off and changed from time to time. It was the latest in a long series of jobs. Actually, a long series of everything. New schools, new jobs, new places to live. She was only 20, but she'd always been on the move. Staying in one spot didn't have many advantages as far as she could tell, but the constant motion was wearing. Getting a new job was never a problem. Neither was giving notice. Skyla wasn't quite sure what held her back this time. Somehow, she'd misplaced her momentum. For the first time, she wondered what it would be like to build a history in one place. Still, the thought of quitting Las Tejas never left her mind. The boss, Big Bruno, who wasn't even Mexican, barked orders constantly. She hated the yelling almost as much as she hated the hot plates and the sticky margarita glasses, which were top-heavy. She found it difficult to hoist the food trays very high and wound up resting them on her shoulders. The fajita meat was served on hot skillets that sizzled and spit next to her ear. The waitstaff sat at the tiled tables after hours, drinking sodas secretly spiked with rum and swapping stories of rude customers and messy children. They were mostly college students, half of them young men. The only thing that kept them coming back night after night was the tips, big wads of bills and handfuls of change. Skyla was one of the younger ones, and she was so petite that most of her co-workers initially guessed she was in high school. And because she was quiet, they assumed she was shy. But neither was true. She was an observer of life and a college student majoring in art. The cooks and busboys joked with her, commenting on her reddish hair and pale skin. "Seen the sun lately, Skyla?" But couldn't get more than a smile out of her. She went about her business, clearing dishes and warning people about hot plates, and before long she figured out who was sleeping with whom and which bartenders were helping themselves to money in the till. People were pretty easy to get a handle on if you took the time to watch and listen. The night Skyla met Thomas, she had just finished her shift. Business was slow that evening because the Green Bay Packers were playing on Monday Night Football. She'd lived in Wisconsin for almost a year and still didn't understand the natives' reverence for the Packers. Time card in hand, she headed toward the back room, but before she could punch out, Big Bruno recruited her to wash glasses behind the bar. She didn't mind the washing too much, but the spongy floor mats were sticky, and the air was thick with cigarette smoke. She lowered each glass onto a sudsy revolving brush and dipped them into the rinsing sink before placing them to the side to dry. The process was so superficial, it left her wondering if the glasses were really clean. Because her back was to the rest of the bar, Skyla wasn't fully aware of what happened next. The sound of the football game muffled the noise of the commotion behind her. She remembered hearing a shout and turning to look. A flash of green flannel pushed against her with the force of a linebacker and threw her several